This is a shot for the times. The guy with the cell phone in his hand is not unusual anymore, but you see him all concentrating on what he's doing there, probably ignoring the people around him. The only thing that I'd like to see on this is that beard is just this really hot spot. You know, when you meter something like this, meter off that hot spot, and then that beard won't be as bright and take the attention away from his eyes and his hands is where he's being photographed at.
The image is called Checking His Calls by Mike Kopkis, 20 points.
Yes,
Richard, you gotta flip the screen here. Somebody's gotta. Richard?
Yes.
Okay, it should be the clicker. Make sure it's on. That should work.
Technical difficulties. Try to change the settings. Yeah.
Just so we know what, they all explained the scoring while they figured this out. Obviously, the highest scoring print gets first place. Depending on the number of entries, it depends on how many awards are handed out. So tonight, you will find that in people, the way the scoring fell, there's only going to be first and second places because enough people qualified. You have to have 40% of the total entries. And with the scores tonight, first and second took up to 40%, so there will be no third place honorable mentions. In pictorial tonight, there will be first, second, and third places, but by the time we reach third place, we had enough qualifying images that there will be no honorable mentions in the pictorial tonight either. Just wanted to take a second, I wish I could explain scoring while we're waiting. And last thing I'd like to do is, there is a volunteer sheet on the table in the back. These kind of nights when you have a print competition, it takes 5, 6, 7 volunteers or more to make this work. So anybody who'd like to volunteer to work on a print night, if you put your name on the list and your email, that way the chairs of the competitions can work to off a volunteer list, and they can assemble the people in advance to work on a night like tonight. And I think I just filled in enough. So on the competition.
And volunteering is just better moving print. It's really not that hard. So. All right, you good?
All right, on this this photo, I thought it was nice. The composition very nice. The gown or robe or whatever kind of lead your eyes up to the subject in the picture. So overall, it was pleasing to look at. The one thing I did notice, probably a little bit, not quite washed out, but a little bit light in some areas.
The image is called Sierra by Susan Vestal, 22 points.
I'm
glad I got this. The challenging part about judging is when you get an image like this and you're trying to come up with your opening statement. So we have the hand of man, okay, so we have our person in there, however minimal that appearance is. From an action image, it's pretty much explains itself. What is unfortunate to me is the lighting, is that and it's very hard to shoot mixed lighting like this where you have bright sunlight and then you have harsh or dark shadow. And in here, all the shadow area, we lose all the detail because there's just not enough of the direct sun, the specular sun, to really give you some detail there. This I would probably print out a little bit, try to print it up a little bit in the shadow areas to give it a little more, where the dark areas tend to get lost. We focus definitely on the hand, but I think there's also the detail of the shadow areas that you could bring up just a little bit, and I think that would make the image a little more cohesive.
The image is called Hand to Mouth by Dennis Wirt, 20 points.
Just a very soft, nice, pleasing portrait. The smile is great, the eyes are great. I think I would have cropped in tighter. That real harsh brick block kind of background doesn't do much for the softness of her face and her hood around her. The other thing I probably would have done is played with the snowflakes a little bit. That big one right off to the right of her nose there is just kind of there. And I don't say too much about Photoshop or Lightroom, but that is really easy to handle in Photoshop, where you could have just cropped that out or removed it or something like that. And your eye would not have gone to that spot. But a very, very nice, pleasing picture.
The image is called Emma, Miss America 2022 by Bob Kowaleski, 23 points, second place.
Everybody likes cute pictures of little kids, so this one certainly matches that. Competition looks fairly well. There is a little extra background, I would call it noise, but maybe if the background was softened a little more. It is outside the window, but not inside. But overall, a nice photo.
The image is called Curiosity by Tammy Jankovic, 23 points, second place.
At very first glance, great human interest image. You have a definite interaction there. The lighting, the way the printing was treated here to really highlight the little girl really makes the point very easily. I think, and I'm going to assume that the maker dodged, vignetted this, put a little dark edging on it. I'd be very careful not to overdo it. Sometimes it looks a little bit overdone. Try to make it as subtle as you can. You can really darken your edges without having to go crazy, and still get the point that you're trying to focus people on your subject. But there's a kind of a, if you draw lines from the feet of the adult to his head to the girl, make that little triangle there. It's got a nice balance to it. Very well done.
The image is called Daddy, Daughter, Love by Chris Bosworth, 23 points, second place.
Very creative, let's put it that way. It's got an interesting picture. You've got this very masculine man in the middle of it. You've got him in his outfit. I'm not sure what he's trying to portray there. When you're doing portraits like this, pull them off that background a little bit. Make some distance between your subject and the background. That way your shadow won't fall in the background like it does behind him a little bit, and it would lighten up this lower left-hand corner. I think the portrait portrays your subject very well.
The image is called Tears of a Clown by Jackie Sajewski, 24 points, first place.
Nice image, nice cropping. I'm not sure if it tells a story in a sense, whether I was trying to look at the eyes and often with portraits I try to figure out what's going on in the person's mind, and this one's, I guess, kind of mysterious because I couldn't quite figure that out, but well done for a portrait.
The image is called Jenna by Eric Wethington, 22 points.
Once again, as a judge, very challenging to give you my opening remark. I'll tell you that the image is very balanced in terms of exposure, lighting, focus is good. It's a very static image. There's no activity going on. I don't see the subject's eyes. From a people perspective, portraits are all about the eyes. So we're getting kind of a side view. We have no idea what the person's looking at. We don't know what the story is. And this is what keeps it from being a story, is because I don't see where they're looking. The environment is obviously out in nature. But other than that, it's like there's just not a story here yet. There may be an element that we've taken out and left out of the composition that might have helped tell a story. But it's, and face value is just a very static image that just needs to be cultivated into a story.
The image is called Contemplation by Kelly Murray. I hope I'm saying that right. Can't read the writing here. 19 points.
When you look at a portrait like this, or an environmental portrait like this, because it's not just a portrait of her animals are there, the pasture is there, so what does this say? I would like to see her a little bit more involved with the animals, even though they're there, they're not right with her per se. I'm not sure what she's doing, although we know she's doing something. Your lighting is good. If there had been a way to get up and get rid of that little bit of background behind there that are just cropping off I think it's a llama's ears, that would have been an add to the composition of it. But overall, it's very nice.
The image is called Woman of the Andes by Bill Keaton, 23 points, second place.
This one, very good portrait of the person, somewhat in action, and the dark background makes that stand out much more. Probably the one thing I would have done was maybe crop the image just slightly closer. You want the black background, but to me it takes up too much of the image.
The image is called The Magic Flute Villain by Susan Vestal, 23 points, second place.
I am so glad I got this one, because I already had my critique planned. Shooting at high noon with a bright sun. What do you folks think that's the best time of day to do? Put your camera away, go to lunch. Well, that's what I do. No, an image like this is, there's the makings here of a very nice image. I like the pose. I like everything that's here, the background, the peeling wall. What I don't like is the static pose. It's shot at eye level, it's shot straight on, and it's full length. This really almost begs for a 35 millimeter getting down on the ground in front of their shoes and shooting up at them. And then taking a bit of flash, and for those of you who know how to use fill flash outdoors in broad daylight, is just add a little bit of light, not blow out the shadows, but just fill them in a little bit so you don't have those really dark sockets which you have in here. And it makes everything pop. So don't be afraid to use flash during daylight. I really do think it would make this much more personal. You get up a little bit tighter, get a tighter crop, and I think the image would really be very dynamic.
The image is called Anytime Fitness by Fran Marino, 21 points.
Yeah. I wasn't sure what to make out of this one. There are so many different elements in it that kind of lead to what it could be, the angel wings, the expression, just the fact of sitting there cross-legged. I'm not sure what the photographer was trying to let us know what he or she wanted. But Ansel Adams says there's two people in every image, the viewer and the photographer. And if the photographer likes this and it's what they went for, then you achieved it. The lighting is a little flat. For me, this is a very dramatic image. Bring your lighting over to one side or the other, or something like that, so you don't have that flat lighting going into it. But overall, it's well done.
The image is called Fairy by Eric Wethington, 20 points.
On this image, the thing that struck me, first off, it's well done, nice exposure on the child. And what I did like about it is the excitement shown in the kid. He's wearing a sports cap and whatever it is, he seems to be really excited about something. Not sure, I might have done something different in the background, but overall, a nice portrait.
The image is called Little Joe Marino by Fran Marino, 23 points, second place.
With the New York thing. So DiMaggio.
So many portraits like this of the old weathered grizzled faces that just have decades and decades of wear on them. This one I like, and yet I have to offer just a slight criticism. I like the overall composition of it, can't argue with that. It's a nice tight portrait. I would bring the light values up just a bit. It's a little bit dark to me, the whites are kind of muddy, and I think it would really benefit very well from being brought up in its values. And I think then you would have something even more dynamic than what we see here. It's a very good image, good portrait. I just think it needs to be printed a little bit lighter and maybe a little slightly harder, contrast-wise.
The image is called What Those Eyes Have Seen by Bill Keaton, 23 points, second place.
Here you go.
I wasn't sure what was happening here. It seems like there's a military thing, there should be some action going on, but it seems kind of stagnant, kind of like there's nothing moving here. I'm not sure what the photographer was trying to do with the background, whether it was something he was trying to do or she was trying to do with the background to make the front stand out. The front is great as far as your exposure. You've got your highlights, you've got your shadows in there, you've got all that. I just wasn't sure of what the photographer was trying to tell me.
The image is called D-Day Reenactors by Dave Korosek, 22 points.
Nice summer shot of two kids enjoying the summer, just relaxing and eating ice cream. As far as composition, I might have cropped this a little bit closer. Shows the old general store and the steps, but I might have cropped it in a little closer. But and again, you have some issues, some shadows on the two kids' faces that could have been brought up a little bit, but a nice picture to show kids in the summer.
The image is called Ice Cream Break by Rich Foley, 23 points, second place.
These close-up portraits that come in hot and heavy. And you know, we we really missed the eyes on this subject, but it kind of made the portrait, because this is another, another, I guess, condition that comes with age. So when you have an older person with their vision failing, or just having a hard time seeing, this is sometimes what you get. So it really speaks of the age, the person, and the years, the miles. I think what the image could benefit from is having the hat a little bit lighter, so it doesn't kind of meld into the background. That's the only criticism I would have.
The image is called A Roadmap of Wrinkles by Marge Brady, 21 points.
Just a very pleasing image of this dancer. The leading lines, which are her legs move right on up through the steps and the stairway. Her right arm seems to be a bit uncomfortable to me, but maybe that's how it is when she dances, I'm not sure. But you've included the toes, which is great. You've included, you haven't dropped off anything that would be important. I think I would have just put a diffuser on that light or something. Just that back rim of light on the back of her legs and her back and the side of her is just a bit too hot. And I would have thrown something on there to do that, and even maybe a kicker light over on the left to brighten up her eyes.
The image is called Dancer on the Stairs by Marge Brady, 24 points, first place.
There you go.
Another nice portrait, close-up portrait. And I'm not a fan of big black and white, but I thought this photo was pleasing. One thing that probably is missing from it, again, it should try to tell some sort of story, and you see him looking down, and looks like he may have a guitar or some instrument in his hand, but since you don't see his eyes, you want to know what he's looking at, and we don't see that in this one.
The image is called Nola Bassist by Gary Merrick, 20 points.
Another one I hope that I could critique. Looking at it, this, you instantly celebrate the colors, the great colors, but the story is buried deep in the image, and we had to kind of see it up close to see the face in there. So in this regard, I don't know, seeing that the whole costume was a necessity. If you have this face peering out of this bright costume, I would have gone in a little bit closer and left all the telephone poles and the spotted ground and everything out of the image. I would have gone in tighter because the image is there. It's just this is just needs to be cropped in. Exposure and everything is fine, but seeing that face in there, kind of hidden in the costume, is really the nugget here.
The image is called Indian Parade Yellow Queen by Gary Merrick, 22 points.
Just a very pleasing image of a young lady. I'm not sure what you were trying to obtain here. The lighting is just flat lighting, and you really need to watch that. There's no contrast, there's no shadows, or very little. When you're looking at image, I tell my kids, highlights illuminate and shadows define. You have to have good highlights and good shadows in there to get that. And you can do that with reflectors, you can do it with all-camera flash, and a little bit of that would have helped us tremendously. You did a great job of lighting the hair, the jacket and shirt are nice, the background's blown out, but just work with that lighting that falls on her face.
The image is called Diane at Nelson Ledges by Dave Korosek, 19 points.
This one's a nice colorful image, looks like they're out on a somewhat rainy morning, at least by what two of them are wearing, unless it's the bright colors to be seen on the bicycle. So nice image. They're exposed fairly well. The only thing, the background, maybe it's useful since it's darker, but I would have brought it up a little bit at least. Maybe left it blurred, but just seems a little dark for the lighting on the subject.
The image is called Senior Cyclist by Chris Bosworth, 21 points.
I struggled with this one, and only for one reason, the composition. Normally I'm very critical of images that are bullseyes, that are dead center, but in this one, offsetting it to me didn't really do it any justice. I think this would have been a nice one, just centered up and very tight. Great eyes, the eyes and lips and everything are captured very well here, and I think I would have gone for a much tighter view. The lighting is very good, I like the printing. A little hot at the bottom there, but I think that could be remedied. But I think this could have been a much more strong, or could have been a stronger portrait by being a much tighter composition, because the face is really what makes the shot, and everything else is subordinate.
The image is called Amanda by Jackie Sieski, 24 points, first place.
This is a nice image of a mother or a grandmother there. Keep an eye on how you pose them. A little bit more to the left or right, a little more narrower to the side would have made her look a little thinner, which would have been nice. Her hands are just kind of there. Make her hands involved with each other. Put on a ring or put on a glove and make them look like they're part of the picture. And kind of give her something to do, something to smile about, or just interact with the photographer. And then somehow either light the background or light her shoulders so that sweater just doesn't get lost in the background.
The image is called Childhood Cancer Survivor by Melanie Plummer, 20 points.
Again, a nice black and white image, somebody speaking or performing at some sort of concert. You can see the wristbands there. Looks like he's looking out at the audience, so it somewhat has a nice story to it. It might have been, I'm not sure if I liked the direction his eyes were looking at or not, but anyway, nice portrait.
The image is called Colin Bloomstone by Melanie Plummer, 22 points. And that's the end of the people competition. So we'll move to the pictorial competition.
This image has pretty much all the elements you look for in a landscape. It has layers to it. It has a good kind of a balance of thirds here. It's under some very tricky lighting because you've got highlights and shadows that are just at extremes of the exposure of a sensor. So it's quite a test there to try to get all your detail. It holds up very nicely. It's very because the lighting is so difficult to get to this image, it tends to be a little bit on the flat side, but the colors in a way make up for that. And to be honest, I'm looking at it up on the screen here, and it actually looks better than the print. I guess that's because they brought the values up, the whites up a little bit more. The print is a little bit printed down. So as I'm looking at the image projected, I'm telling you, it really looks great compared to the print. You can take that for what it's worth.
The image is called The Alaska Range by Bob Kowaleski, 23 points, third place.
Night photography has a whole gift of its own per se. I really would have liked to see this centered. It's just off enough to make me wish it was just centered. I can't think of the right word now. Everything lines up. I would have turned so all the posts are left to right, left to right, left to right, just perfect as you look through this. I can't think of the word for symmetrical. Thank you. Thank you. That's why you can bid the big blocks. There you go. And your lights would have been to the right and to the left. Maybe the one on the left would have been on the screen. If not, you could just crop in. Your exposure is great. I love the fact that there's blue sky there and it's not quite dark midnight sky. I just would have changed the composition just a little bit.
The image is called Medina Gazebo by Mike Kopkis, 20 points.
This was one we kind of wondered if it was meant for the people category, but nice image of a mother and I assume her child. One of those tender moments that every parent enjoys, and it's nice to have it captured on film. Maybe a little light in some areas on the photo, kind of blown out, but otherwise a nice image.
The image is called Pure Love by Jackie Sayeski, 24 points, second place.
I'm getting my wishes tonight. I wanted to critique this one. I really like this image, but I would like to see a crop. I'm looking at it going, well, the asphalt with the grass growing through it is interesting, but nowhere near as interesting as the upper third of this image. I like what's happening with the old building and the sky. That's the picture to me. And throwing in the asphalt just takes a very interesting image and makes it very ordinary. So having about a third of this image asphalt with weeds growing through it really throws me off. I really like what's happening though in the kind of the left side of the image, and it's beautiful. You've got some, the angle of the roof. You got the green grass, and you got the hues of the sky. It's just a very, very good looking landscape.
My question on this, could the photographer have just taken a walk to the left? You know, and so then the interesting sky would have been over the roof. He probably, or she probably could have cropped out or gotten rid of that blacktop without any problem.
Sure.
And then the color of that grass would have just, complemented the greens and the oranges, and that would have made it
Yes,
a
absolutely.
much better image.
The image is called End of the Road by Bob Kowaleski, 19 points.
Wrong direction. Wrong direction.
So was your raise.
A nice shot of some boats lined up at a dock.
Wait a minute. I think that's yours, Bob.
Oh, that's right.
You just weighed in on mine.
Yeah.
I was being polite. He seems really excited to do this. And so
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna let him know. A nice shot of boats lined up at a dock. Thank you very much, Bob. It is a nice shot of boats lined up at a dock. I like that it's in thirds. I like the sky. If you've ever heard me judge before, I am not a fan of skies unless they are part of the image, unless they add something to the image. When you throw a flat blue sky in there, no thank you. The only thing that I would like about this, I would have just gone down a little bit. I would have included a little bit of the foreground of the dock or whatever's in there, and given that bottom boat just a little bit more room to breathe. Other than that, it's a great shot.
The image is called Breeze Boats by Dennis Wirt, 19 points.
Your turn.
Yeah.
Okay. There's your waterfall.
Oh, yeah, the comment was made when we were judging, I said, this one's not a waterfall, though it looks like it. It's a sand fall, basically. But a nice image. I've seen some shots like this, never got to a place like this. But very good. There's the shadow areas, which you can still see a little bit of the color and detail in those shadows. The light areas, though, aren't blown out. So overall, I thought it was very well done, and the composition's fairly good. I like it being coming from the left and going to the right, but you have some room to the right. So nice image.
The image is called Sandfall by Bill Keaton, 23 points, third place.
So far, he's not gonna hit us.
Yeah.
Got a lot of work here today, Bill. Oh, boy, I really am getting the ones I wanted to critique. This one I struggled with because I'm looking at it, and it's a great close-up of this reptile, but I have to say something. We have two very distracting elements in the image, other than the subject. And I was struggling with what would I do to improve it. I think I would burn down the wood. I think I would take the values of both the left and the right wood and burn it down, because I think it would be, even though it is the brightest, the head is the brightest thing in the image, the other elements are almost as bright, and they compete with it, and they're so big that just by their mass they become confusing elements. I would probably take it down. Again, you don't have to be dramatic, but I would take it down in value a little bit. But otherwise, very well done.
The image is called Gecko Stare by Vicky Wirt, 24 points, second place.
Gorillas can be incredible beings or beasts to photograph. Their expressions, their eyes, their hands are great to photograph. I would have shot this vertically. I would have come down from where he's at, down past his mouth, get more of him in here. The image has no emotion basically from his eyes right. And I would have done that. I would have taken the background and just dropped it down a little bit, dropped it in value, like Steve says, because your eye always goes to the brightest spot in the picture. So I don't know if you could have gone left a little bit, but I would have definitely shot this vertically.
The image is called Papa Gorilla by Eric Wethington, 22 points.
This one's with the bridge. The sky was fairly nice, not all one color. A few clouds to add to it. You got the scene in the swamp there. The only thing when I looked at it, I thought, to me, looks like an ordinary summer day here in Ohio, and doesn't necessarily have a story or something in it of more interest, maybe some sort of wildlife or something. But as far as exposure, it was done very well.
The image is called Station Road Swamp by Rick Mills, 22 points.
I have to confess, I believe the sky was added afterwards. Would I be right?
No,
No? Is that a no?
that's a no.
Okay. I like the fact that the people give the image the scale that you need, the sense of scale. The only distraction is the upper right chip up there. That little chip of sky is definitely a distraction, and it really isn't necessary to the image. To frame it in properly, I would just crop it out. You could probably bring it either down or I would probably bring it down and crop out the top fifth. but I wouldn't leave that in there because that just, it kind of leaves you hanging. I like having the people in there to give it the scale. Like I said, the skies almost look artificial. They're just, it just looked like they were popped in there, but hey, sometimes you get it's just a good sky day to begin with. Who knew?
Under the Golden Arch by Mike Kopkis, 22 points.
Pretty girl on a rock on a beach, can hardly go wrong. The lake is level, which is always good. I would have just cropped that top blue out of there. It adds nothing to the image and it brings your eyes down to her a little bit. I think I would have asked her to take the boots off. Bare feet on rocks on a beach are much more appealing than boots. And that's something you always want to ask your models first. Am I allowed to? Would you mind? Rather than just say, hey, you know. Bend that right or the left elbow. You don't ever want to leave a limb going straight like that. So bend that, bring it up on her right knee or something like that. But that gives a little more flexibility to the picture. And a reflector to bring just a little bit of light into her eyes would be wonderful. She's got a great smile. Seems like a nice kid. Just a few little things would help to improve this image.
The image is called Tara by Susan Vestal, 22 points.
I believe this is Station Road Bridge, and a nice shot down showing the water as it flows under the bridge. Nice colors on the bridge itself, the white fins. I thought though, in the background, the sky as well as the water, the lighting just seems to be a little bit flat to me, and maybe the water in the creek, at least, I don't know if it was shot with a polarizing filter, but that might have cut a little bit of the glare off the water and made it a little more pleasing.
The image is called Everett Road River Rock by Rick Mills, 20 points.
I'm on a cloud. I'm getting all the pictures I want. Great. And these are tough ones. These are not easy to critique. When you're looking at something that has a very simple design, again, I'm looking at the print and I like it better up on the projection because it pops the whites. This is another one that's printed down again. On the screen it looks much more effective. On the print it's dull. And I'm going to comment on that at the end of our program about printing down. I think on the screen it just looks much more graphic, much more detail. In the print here, it just doesn't, because a print has to reflect off the back of the base of the paper, and depending on what kind of lighting you're using, our lighting here is, I think it's a little yellow, but our everything in a print is based on the backing of the paper that's being used and the light that's on it. When you're projecting, it's a whole different ball game, and I'm seeing it up on the projector much nicer than what I'm seeing in the print, and that goes for several prints we've seen. And this is about printing the print too dark. And I really do like the composition. I think it's a very simple composition, and you know what you're looking at, but it borders on the abstract.
The image is called A Real Horse Face by Dennis Wirt, 20 points.
I love the drama in this, but I think that sky was added. No, I'm just messing around with you. No, by the colors and the shades and the contrast in this, it's a great shot. We have a lot of these around our area, and the challenge is to get a good shot of a blue heron doing something that is somewhat out of the ordinary. We get them catching fish all the time and sitting on a rock or doing something like this. And the challenge when you're in a competition like this is give the judges something that they haven't seen, or to present it in a way that they haven't seen it. because you're gonna get a higher score if you do that. So, you know, the wings are spread, he's just taken off, he's got a stick in his mouth. The only thing that I would have done is cropped a little bit on the left, just to not make it so centered, but crop that on the left, maybe an inch or two between the two twigs coming up. That gives the bird in flight or the animal running or anything like that room to move. Other than that, I really love this picture.
The image is called In Flight by Vicki Wirt, 25 points, first place.
On this one, a nice colorful shot. It's clear that two kids were posing for the photo. I might have, as far as composition, cropped it in a little bit closer to catch them. You don't need the background of the house on the left or that big area of plainness of the house on the right. So I would have cropped it in a little bit, but nice photo. I'm sure years later the kids will really enjoy seeing this.
I have to comment. I really do believe this is, the static nature of this is what, I really wish a 35 millimeter lens, get down at the base of the lemonade stand, shoot up at it, a little bit of flash, and it really would have popped them out of the picture. They're kind of almost lost in the light because the light is so harsh. But this has the makings of a really, really fantastic moment here for these kids. So getting in tight with a 35 millimeter lens is a fantastic lens for shooting people, because you can get in close without getting too much distortion, and you can get just what you need in the image. And a little bit of flash, just pop it a little bit out and get those black eyeballs out of there, and just give them a little bit of catch light. But a very nice moment caught.
The image is called Lemonade, Anyone? By Fran Marino, 21 points.
Here's my new pair of feet.
Yeah.
How about if I do this one? Is it your turn?
It's my turn.
Oh, is it? Well, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Bob. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. We work together well.
The image, technically, it has all the right components in it. Your horizon is nice and straight. You've got very good coloring. You've got good lighting. You got the Canadian flag very prominent in the image. You got nice shadows on the sails. You got nice highlights. Everything's in proportion. To me, it's just a little, maybe just a tad tight on the right side. It just needs a little more breathing space all around. That's the only criticism I can have on it, but it's technically just very well done.
The image is called Empire Sandy by Rich Foley, 23 points, third place.
Thank you. This isn't a waterfall. We debated that earlier. I really love it when the photographer takes the time, composes a picture very well, throws this artistic flair into it with the water having that angel hair or whatever you want to call it on the milkiness of the water. I like the feel of the flow of that. I think it's exposed well. A lot of times when they do that, you just, you want to get that long exposure and you tend to overexpose. The only thing I would have done to this is maybe give a little more room at the bottom and included just a little bit more of that bridge. I wouldn't have cropped it up, just take it right up to the top of the bridge there. Other than that, very well done.
The image is called Berea Falls by Rick Mills, 23 points, third place.
I like this image. We have some very similar flowers growing at our house. And this image is, I like the color in the background. Complements the image and the colors of the subject itself. Everything seems to be exposed well, and the lighting is very good. So I just enjoyed this image. I don't know if I would have changed anything. If anything at all, I guess I would give a little more space on the left side and the top for the flowers, but otherwise, a nice image.
It's a very classic image of the iris. It's just classic.
Yeah.
The image is called Iris Family by Vicki Wirt, 23 points, third place.
Ooh, I get a waterfall.
You better check. There you go.
I was doing it, Brian. I shoot waterfalls too, and I like the slow shutter. I've had people criticize me and say, why did you shoot it like that? Because that's not how water looks. And I have to admit, they got me. You're right, that's not the way it looks to the naked eye. But this is what photography is. We see the world, but we also interpret the world. I like it. It's got great balance. When I teach my classes on composition, we talk about how masses balance each other in an image. They don't have to be exactly the same shape, color, size, but because of where they're located in the frame, they balance each other. The lower left trunk that's in the image and the upper right tree, they balance each other off in the composition, do it very nicely. The only criticism to this image, I think that the water is captured well, the colors are good. I think the rocks and everything in the lower right could be brightened up just a tad to prevent them from kind of falling into obscurity. Other than that, very well done.
The image is called Crabtree Falls, Virginia by Dave Korosek, 23 points, third place.
The waterfall.
Very bright, colorful, well-exposed image. If you were doing the panning with this, great job of throwing that background out of focus, which gives that action to this car coming around the corner. You caught the focus really well. The only thing I would have done is just given it more room to run into. You've just got it locked in between the left and the right side of this image. And although we know that it's moving because of the background, I would like to have it either more room to come towards you or to go to the right or something like that. But compositionally and technically, you did well.
The image is called Porsche GT3 by Rich Foley, 23 points, third place.
When I looked at this image and I thought, boy, the exposure's nice. You've got the light areas on the owl, which are exposed nice, as well as the branch it's on with the berries, and even though they're darker, the exposure there is nice. As far as cropping, I thought it was well done also. So to me, a very pleasing image.
The image is called Barn Owl by Marge Brady, 24 points, second place.
And I'm grateful to have the last one, and that'd be this one. I know why I'm going to have bad dreams tonight, so thank you, whoever did this. Guess you don't have to dream in color. There's an ironic mixture here of icons. It's kind of the yin and yang of an image. You have the virgin, the godly, and then you have the otherworldly. So it's very neat juxtaposition of concepts. Looking at the screen again, I'm looking at that versus the print. To me, the print needs to be brightened up a little bit, just enough, I think just enough to give it a little more deep. There's a lot of details in there, but they're getting lost in the gray. But it's a very interesting, if not disturbing image, but very well done.
The image is called Reverence by Melanie Plummer, 22 points. And that concludes the pictorial and the...
Do we have a couple minutes to make a couple comments?
Sure.
I'd like to make a general comment about if I could. and maybe my fellow judges would like to. You're hearing just the opinions of 3 individuals up here, so please don't get the feeling that we have absolute knowledge, although we've been criticized for that. Yeah, Mark says he has infinite wisdom, so. But two items of commonality here in the body of work tonight, and I'm not saying that every image was like this, but there was just, it seemed to be a multitude of images that had these 2 particular possibilities for improvement. And I want to bring it up because I would want somebody to tell me what I'm going to tell you. Number 1, there are some images that are just dark. They're just a little bit too dark. And again, it's always a matter of degree, but when you look at an image and you say, I like it, but it just doesn't pop. It just needs a little bit of brightening up. It doesn't have to be ridiculous. And the same goes for when you do vignetting, when you burn edges. Try to be subtle about it. If it looks really pronounced, you overdid it. If it really looks obvious, you overdid it. It really has to be subtle. You don't have to darken too much to make your focus go to the subject. So be careful about that. The other is the wide-angle view syndrome. And we're all guilty of it. You get out of your car, you get to a site, and you look at this beautiful vista. It's the Grand Canyon or some great vista. And you take your wide-angle lens, you bolt it to your camera, and you take a big shot, and you hope you got a great shot of it, got your exposure right, your focus right. But there's no image there. It's just everything is in, including the kitchen sink. And we're being asked to process what is the image, what's the story. In my work, I'm accused of shooting bits and pieces of the world, not the whole world. So that's my bias. I shoot the parts of things instead of the whole. So I will just say to you, when you're out and you're shooting the whole, you're taking the wide angle view, make sure you take some of the pieces parts because you're there anyway. So take those extra shots of the close-ups. Don't take the whole thing, whether it's a huge vista or something that, take something out of it that's interesting within it and shoot those 2 while you're there instead of trying to crop it out of a big image that you shot, in wide angle mode. So that's a couple things. I don't know if the judges have anything else they want to bring up because they want to drive home on 4 inflated tires. I don't know.
We've learned not to question.
But really enjoyed your work today. Thank you.
Well, we thank you all for entering. One more quick announcement. We could use more volunteers to help out with the nights of competition in terms of scoring, getting pictures up or whatnot. And Bill's got a sign-in sheet or a sign-up sheet just for volunteers. If you think you might be interested, it's on the table out there. But otherwise, thank you very much all for coming.